The Commission of Inquiry raised concerns about the political tensions ramping up, acts of violence and arrests of opposition members and candidates since the start of electoral campaigns. Now, a perfect storm is brewing in Burundi, but after years of repression, few are left to bear witness and sound the alarm. Louis Mudge is the Central Africa Director at Human Rights Watch, and he joins us now via Skype. Thanks so much indeed for joining us on the programme. Central Africa has had its challenges over the years, some good examples and not so good examples of how to manage and to govern. Burundi has always been cited in many reports, whether it's press freedom, human rights, and now with elections on the way in the midst of COVID-19, as Human Rights Watch, what are your biggest concerns and fears at this time?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And this is obviously very relevant considering the role that South Africa played in the peace deal, the Arusha Accords that were brokered in Burundi in the mid-2000s. Our main concerns now, as we are less than a week out of the elections, are twofold. Number one, these elections are occurring under a specter of political violence. You have the ruling CNDD-FDD party and its youth militia effectively controlling the country outside the capital of Bujumbura. They perceive anyone who is not completely loyal to the CNDD-FDD, the ruling party, to be either opponents or to be people against the government programs. And those people are therefore targeted and therefore free game. The ruling party's youth militia in many parts of the country is stronger than the police and is stronger than local authorities. And that is a real step in the wrong direction. That is something that represents a fundamental shift in Burundi since 10 years ago, when these ruling thugs of the ruling party had to operate much more undercover. So that's the first thing we're looking at, is the political violence. And number two, as you alluded to in your report, is that these elections are happening, mass rallies of tens of thousands of people are happening under the specter as well of a global pandemic, a pandemic that the ruling party is completely ignored. The initial response to COVID-19 from President Pierre Nkurunziza and the ruling party was that God has a special place in its heart for Burundi and God will protect us. Now, they've taken another additional step to expel WHO workers because these people might very well blow the cover on the fact that COVID-19 has arrived in Burundi. We don't know that yet. We actually don't know why the WHO experts have been kicked out of the country. But what it does do is it falls into a long pattern established by the government of Burundi, especially since 2015, of kicking out any foreign body which may criticize or go against state policy.
All right, so this youth militia, this Imbonerakure militia group, the youth group of the ruling party, what has the president said about their activities? Has he been mum? Has he given his tacit approval? How has he explained their actions?
The Imbonerakure have been given tacit approval by the president in the fact that they have complete impunity. We're now at the point where the evidence collected by not only Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International and other NGOs, but UN-mandated commissions, the evidence is overwhelming that the Imbonerakure are committing extrajudicial executions. They're effecting arbitrary arrests. They're committing sexual violence, and they're committing cases of torture. And that is now an established fact. And the fact that they can do this with such impunity means that they have the highest level of approval. Now, officially from Bujumbura, what you'll be told is, no, this is just the youth wing of the party. They represent the future of the party, and they engage in political events. But I myself, before when I was still allowed to work in Burundi, I myself witnessed how the Imbonerakure coordinate with police. They coordinate with the military. They put on uniforms. They march in parades, in military-style parades, and they can commit murder.
How is this allowed to carry on? I'm looking to the African Union now, especially given that the United Nations Human Rights Council has ordered a whole inquiry into the situation in the country. The facts, as you say, have been laid bare. Why the silence, do you think, in terms of dealing with these obvious human rights violations?
Well, international bodies such as the AU have certainly tried. The AU tried to send human rights monitors, and they were sidelined for sort of administrative reasons by the government of Burundi. There are actually technically a few AU observers there, still human rights observers still in the country, but they have such a very defined and limited mandate that it renders questions around how effective their work actually is, because they can't render any of that work public. But Burundi has adopted this pariah status over the last 5 years, and they seem comfortable with it. They have been sidelined internationally with regards to the UN. They've been sidelined regionally with regards to the East Africa community. Regional observers from the East Africa community won't even be allowed to participate in observing these elections, and the Burundian government seems fine with that. They're having serious problems with their northern neighbor, Rwanda, and their economy has really suffered as a result. But this is a government that rules for the party, and I believe that the party obviously feels that the ends justify the means, and that they're willing to go it alone. But make no mistake about it, on the international and regional scale, Burundi has very much become marginalized.
All right, so Burundi is saying that there are very few cases of COVID-19. Is this hiding the truth, or is this anywhere near the truth? Because with elections and people going to polls and so on and so forth, it could be a gunpowder keg.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be a ticking time bomb. It's not only people going to polls. It's as I alluded to before, if you don't show fidelity to the party, you're considered an outsider. So you have people who feel that their lives depend on participating in these mass rallies of tens and tens of thousands of people. The photos that are emerging out of Bujumbura and the provinces are shocking. There's no way to know what's happening. Burundi, with regards to COVID and the testing, Burundi has closed itself off by kicking out international experts from the WHO. These are not people who flew in for the pandemic. These are the people that are based for the World Health Organization in Burundi, as the World Health Organization has bases all around the world. So by kicking these people out, by continuing to not want to cooperate with the UN, it does demonstrate that Burundi would rather stick its head in the sand. The government would rather stick its head in the sand and not want to know the truth and not want the world to know the truth. International media can't get into Burundi. International civil society can't get in. But local media and civil society has also been completely cut. The few journalists that exist in the country who are to any degree independent do so at a very, very high risk. Who knows? It could be, as the CNDD-FDD and President Nkurunziza say, maybe this is God protecting the country. Personally, I doubt it. I don't think Burundi is special vis-a-vis its neighbors. So it's more than likely that there's many, many other cases that are simply going undiagnosed, and who knows what's happening.
All right, so well, let's hope that some sanity will prevail and that something happens to protect the citizens there. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on the Skype, Mr. Mudge, Central Africa Director, Human Rights Watch, talking about Burundi, about to go to the elections. They say that only 15 people have got COVID-19, but health experts are being thrown out of the country, so it's very difficult to gauge, but we'll keep a watch on that for you.